Well, I'm glad that you're here, and in respect for your time, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm Renay Knapp. I'm the Family and Consumer Science Extension Agent with North Carolina Cooperative Extension. I work in Henderson and in Transylvania County, and we're recording from Transylvania County and Zooming from Transylvania County today. I have my intern with me today, Betsy Tankersley. She is a culinary arts student at AB Tech and has been a tremendous help for me getting these things set up and everything. And she is controlling the chat and things behind the scenes. So since it's just you and I and Betsy, if you have questions or anything, just please feel free to stop me, interrupt me, and just let me know what
Great
questions. Have you ever canned with the pressure canner before?
No.
Okay, so you're a first time. Have you done any canning before?
I've done quick pickling and that's it.
Okay. All right. So this is kind of new for you. So this is pressure canning, and we're going to be canning carrots today. So a lot of people don't like to use the pressure canner because, you know, they're afraid that it's going to blow up or, you know, cause harm to them. And really it's safe. You just have to make sure that you operate it correctly and that, you know, it's in good shape and everything. So there's only two safe ways to can food, and one is in the hot water bath, which is just a large pot of water with a rack in the bottom and the jars and 1 to 2 inches of water over the top of it. So you could even use, if you have a small amount of pickles or jam or something like that, you could even use like a large spaghetti pot with a cake cooling rack in the bottom of it. And the other way, safe way, is in the pressure canner. In the hot water bath, it only gets up to 212 degrees, but in the pressure canner, it's going to get up to 240 degrees. And with that temperature, it's going to, you know, 240 degrees, yes. So that is going to kill any of the botulism that could be present in the foods. So in a hot water bath, you can do jams and jellies or any of your soft spreads, your pickles, tomatoes. Tomatoes is one that can go either way, either in the hot water bath or in the pressure canner. And fruits can be done in the hot water bath. In the pressure canner, the vegetables, meats, soups, and stews are done in the pressure canner. So those are low acid foods, so those need to be done at a high temperature. Like the fruits, jams, and jellies, and pickles, and things like that, those are high acid foods, and those are safe to do in a hot water bath. It all boils down to the pH of the food. So tomatoes, like I said, can either be done in the hot water bath or in the pressure canner. And those are right there at about midway on the pH scale. So, so that's why they can go either in the pressure canner or in the hot water bath. At home, I kind of did a test and experiment, and it took about the same amount of time to do it either in the pressure canner or in the hot water bath. With tomatoes and figs, you do need to add an acid to them, and that is like lemon juice, vinegar, or citric acid crystals, and that is just to raise the acidity level of those to make it safe. So there are two different kinds of pressure canners. There is the dial gauge and the weighted gauge, and I have examples of both of these out. But if you can see, I've actually got 3 lids here. This is one of the weighted gauges, and this is one of the older models with it. Excuse me. So this one has the rubber gasket on the inside. These you need to check and make sure that they are in good order. You want it to fit completely snug on the outside of the lid. This one has the weight here and it's around this, but here in the center, there's actually 3 different holes. And these are for 5, 10, and 15 pounds. And it's kind of etched into the top of the weight. You may not be able to see it. But with, whatever your recipe calls for, if it's 10 pounds, you're going to put it on 10 pounds. With the exception of you need to check your altitude. And I can't remember what the altitude is here for Transylvania County, but at home, and I live in Horseshoe, I pressure can everything on with the weighted gauge on 15 pounds because that adjusts for altitude. With the pressure canner, you need to add pounds to it. If you're using the hot water bath, you're going to add time to your processing. So you would need to put this on the vent there on 15 pounds. This is the other. This is the other weighted gauge canner. It has a rubber plug here, so if there's too much pressure built up, that will pop out. So, and that will release some of the steam on it too. This little valve here will pop up after it has been in for 10 minutes. And with pressure canners, you want to vent it for 10 minutes to drive all the air out and just have the steam on the inside. So you will, when we put the jars back in the canner and lock the lid in place and start bringing it up to heating and everything, the water will start boiling and it will start driving the air out of this vent here. And then this will pop up after about 10 minutes. If you don't have this, like if you were using this, you would vent it for 10 minutes. So you would time it for 10 minutes and make sure that all the air is out before you put this on the vent. Once you place the weight on the vent, then that starts building up the pressure on the inside. Now this weight is quite different from this one. Okay, so this one you have to squeeze this thing, and I know it's not going to do it. So there's 3 discs. Okay, so there is the center core of it, and then there's 2 rings. And you add 1 ring, and that makes 10 pounds, and you add the second ring, and that makes 15 pounds. So we're going to be pressuring on 15 pounds here, so that is not going to matter. And a lot of times I don't have strength in my squeezing fingers. So you want to see if you can squeeze that. Then there's the dial gauge, and the dial gauge has the gauge on it that goes from 0 up to caution. This one needs to be, the gauge needs to be tested each year just to make sure that it is calibrated correctly and that it's reading correctly. This one also has the vent that will seal off once it has been in for 10 minutes. So, and also the rubber plug that will pop out. This weight looks very similar to the other weighted gauge or weight for the weighted gauge canner. And these both are made by Presto. So once it has been for 10 minutes, you're going to put the weight on, and then that is going to start building up the pressure on the inside of the canner. So you'll watch the gauge, the dial, the needle, and when it gets up to whatever pounds of pressure that you need, then that is when you start the processing time. Now, with this one, you can actually get it up to like 12 pounds or 13 pounds, adjusting for altitude. So this one you watch and make sure that it stays on the pounds that it's required, say like 12 pounds. With the other 2 weights, you're going to listen. This weighted gauge, this one is actually going to rock or dance, and it's going to rock and dance constantly. So Betsy was able to get that off. Yay, Betsy. Okay, so this is 5 pounds. You add another one of the rings, and that makes 10 pounds. May not be able to get it back on. And then the third one is the third that makes the 15 pounds. So that one is going to, dance constantly. This one is going to jiggle. A lot of people will call it the jiggler. So this one is going to rock 2 to 3 times a minute. So you pretty much have to time this until you get accustomed to hearing the rocking on that. So those are the 3 different types of pressure canners. A lot of people, there's certain ones that a lot of people like. At one time when I first started canning, I liked the dial gauge because you could actually see where the pounds was. And we even took a Sharpie marker and marked like where 12 or 13 pounds was, so that if we got busy, doing prepping maybe another run to put it on there, so that we'd see where it was at. And we'd also mark it on your stove. Your stove, you're going to figure out where, to turn the burner to, the control, so that it's going to maintain, the 15 pounds or the 12 pounds of pressure. So once you know that, then you can, easily slide it down or turn it down and keep it, maintain that setting. So those are the 3. I guess, eventually with this one is my favorite because you can be doing something else and hear the constant rocking of it. And probably you would be able to do with this weighted gauge also, the 2 to 3 times a minute. So they're all safe, again, as you make sure that you operate them correctly. So with a pressure canner, you're going to put 2 inches of water in the bottom of the canner, and I already have the water in here. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it on and let it be heating. You want to put a rack in the canner, something that is going to raise the jars off of the direct contact with the bottom of the canner and the heating element. So we're going to go ahead and set that in there. Like I said, with the hot water bath, you can do cake cooling racks if you have a smaller one, a smaller canner. All your pressure canners do come with the rack, so you want to make sure that that you keep up with it. I store everything that goes with the canner down inside the canner, so that it's all there together. One thing that I wanted to share with you is there are larger canners that you can double rack things. So if you had, lots of green beans that you needed to can and you were canning them in pints, you can put them, double layer them in some of the taller canners. So pints work perfectly in here. So, you could, get maybe all of your carrots or your pints of green beans or whatever done at one time. So set that back out of the way. And I'm going to move all these other lids to the side also, so that I have kind of a clean surface here. So after your canners, the expense, of buying that and purchasing it, the jars are going to be the next most expensive things that you're going to invest in. So you want to make sure that you have home canning jars. And the home canning jars will have the name embossed on the front of it. So there's several different brands of canning jars. There's Ball, Kerr, Atlas, Mason, think it's, oh, Golden Harvest. Walmart has a brand. Walmart, I don't believe, unless it's new this year, they do not have the name embossed on them. And what I'm talking about is it's kind of raised and you can see, you know, what the name of it is. So there's several different sizes. There's the half a gallon. Half a gallons are only for clear juices, like grape juice or apple juice. You can't safely can green beans or tomato juice even in this. Just because your family eats 2 gallons of green beans at a time, you know, you need to do it in the quart jars. So we have quart jars, and both of these are the same size. This one is a regular mouth jar. It will take the regular mouth lids and rings. This is a wide mouth. And the way that you choose which one you're going to use, it depends on the food that you're going to put in them. So if you were doing maybe applesauce and just being able to pour that in there, that would fit the size of the jar, you know, as you fill it. If you're packing like peaches or tomatoes or maybe even green beans, you might want the wide mouth jar so that you can fit your hand a little bit down in there so that that helps in packing it. So, so those are the regular and the wide mouth. This is a pint and a fourth, so 3/4 of a pint. So, but you notice this compared to this quart, this one doesn't have any shoulder. This is called the shoulder of the jar. So this one doesn't have a shoulder. It is, the glass is tempered that you can use it either in the hot water bath, in the pressure canner, or you can freeze things in it. A lot of times, especially when my boys were in college, I would make extra chili and put chili in here, leave enough of head space and send it back to them, and they could put it in their freezer and then take it out and, you know, enjoy some home cooked chili. And, you know, you just defrost it or thaw it enough and it will slide out of the jar. Whereas these, you know, it's got that shoulder there and it won't slide out easily. This takes a wide mouth lid. So there's pints, again, regular mouth and wide mouth, same size. This could also be used as a can freeze jar because it doesn't have the shoulders there. This is a jelly jar or a 3/4 pint. And then we have a half pint and a 1/4 pint. So depending on what you're making and canning, you know, it depends on the size of the jar. Lids are intended for a one-time use only. They have a plastisol, a sealing compound on the inside of the lid that conforms to the edge of the jar. Once that is kind of has conformed to the lid or rim of the jar, you can't reuse it and so that it would create a seal. Again, they come in regular and wide mouth. So in several different brands. Again, Kerr or these are Ball. You can find the lids from Walmart. I think their brand is Mainstay. You can buy by bulk. Now, last year we had a shortage of lids, and a lot of people had problems in finding it. So, but I'm seeing more jars with the lids and bands, so rings. So hopefully we won't have that problem this year like we did last year. So some other useful tools is the jar lifter, and that fits around the neck of the jar, and you're able to take it in and out of the canner. So once we take it out of the canner, there's going to be some water on top of it, so resist that urge to tilt it to pour that water off. If you tilt it and the food gets in underneath the lid, it could cause it not to seal. So you want to make sure that you don't tilt it. This is a bubble wine. Processing times and pressure are dependent on of course, the pH of the food, amount of food, the consistency of the food, shape of the food, but also the amount of air that is left in the jar. So you want to make sure that you get all of the air bubbles out, and I'll be using this to remove the bubbles from our carrots. One thing that the only purpose that the rings play in canning is to hold the lid in place. So you want to make sure that your lids are in good shape. These are some that I pulled out, and again, I'm not for sure if you can see it or not, but this one kind of is rusty. It would be okay to go ahead and use. This one, it got stuck on the jar, and someone has taken a knife and beat it to try to get it loosened. So I wouldn't use that because it is bent at the top. These are a little bit rusty on the inside, so probably you wouldn't use those. So I wanted to make sure, do you have any questions?
What would be a good manufacturer of the pots?
Okay, with the pressure canners, you're talking about pressure canners?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, well, there are Presto, Mira, and All American. Those are the 3 brand names, and it's whatever you get used to. One of the things, where are you at? Where are you located?
Asheville.
Asheville. Kathy Hohenstein is the Family Consumer Science Extension agent there. And I'm not for sure if she does or not. I have pressure canners in the office in Henderson County that I loan out to people. But I only have the Miro and the Presto. But if you wanted to borrow one just to kind of try it out to see if that's something that you wanted to do, you'd be welcome to borrow it. I usually loan them out for about 3 days. So, like you could pick it up on Thursday. So you'd have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then you could bring it back to me on Monday. And
Sure.
That's just so that, if anybody else wanted to borrow it, would not, be tied up. So,
Right.
But
Thank you.
I'm like I said, I'm not sure if Kathy does that or not. So a lot of times each county is a little bit different. So
Right. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I'm gonna wash my hands a little bit.
Mary Ann, what was the name? What was the name of the tool to get the bubbles out?
A bubble wand.
Wand?
Wand, W-A-N-D. And you can use like a picnic knife, a plastic knife, or this. This is just acrylic. You don't want to use like a dinner knife because what we're going to do is we are going to run this down the edges, the sides of the jar, and a metal knife would potentially scratch the glass,
Right.
and cause damage to it. So you want to use something like this. You can find there's canning kits that you can get that has the bubble wand, the jar lifter, and a funnel all in it. So there may also be what is called a magnetic lid lifter, and it has a magnet in the end, and you can lift the lids and rings out of your water. At one time, it was recommended that the lids be simmered so that, that kind of softens the plastic soft. The newer lids don't have to be simmered, so you just wash those, rinse them, and then I've got them in a bowl of just some good hot tap water. The jars, you want to make sure that you check them to make sure there's no nicks or cracks around the side edges of them, and wash them. You can either hand wash them or wash them in a dishwasher. If your processing time is longer than 10 minutes, you don't have to sterilize them. And sterilizing is putting them in a pot of hot water and boiling them for 10 minutes. So these have been run through the dishwasher, so they are good and clean and still warm. And Betsy has fixed our carrots for us. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start filling the jars. You want to leave an inch head space. Head space is the amount of space that is at the top of the jar, from the top of the jar down. That's how it is measured, from the top down. So we'll measure from here down, and an inch is going to be right at that neck there. So we want to fill them, pack them in. The hot water that we're going to put on them is will help shrink them a little bit, but also the processing, which cooking in the canner will make them shrink.
So these are just fresh carrots.
Yes. I got a little bit happy, I guess, in scheduling my food preservation workshops. So a lot of produce, of course, is not in season at this point. So I just purchased these at, one of the grocery stores. We washed them and we peeled them, and then Betsy sliced them. They're probably an 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch thick. So you want in your produce, you want to choose good, fresh, free of blemish produce. If you can't get to it right then, go ahead and put it in the refrigerator and keep it, at a good cool temperature. So what are you planning to can?
I have cucumbers in the garden, okra.
Okay.
Can you do summer squash?
I'm going to have to check on that. I think you can, but I'm not sure. I know you.
We have carrots.
Carrots, okay.
And okra.
Okay. If you're.
And then of course, tomatoes.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
And peppers.
That. Okay. With cucumbers, are you?
Tomatoes.
Are you going to pickle the cucumbers?
And peppers.
And peppers?
I think so, yes.
Okay. With the summer squash, it is kind of a tender vegetable, so it will kind of cook down. So I don't think, and I'm thinking off the top of my head, I don't think that you can actually can it. You can make pickles out of it.
Right.
Like a bread and butter squash pickle. So those are really good too. So one of the resources that we recommend is the So Easy to Preserve book. The So Easy to Preserve book is published by the University of Georgia Cooperative Extension. But the University of Georgia is actually the National Center for Home Food Preservation. So you can,
oh, okay.
We're getting copies of that. I think they were kind of behind in publishing, but we will have copies in our office. I think Kathy says she has some also, so you might check with her. And
is it online?
They have a website, but they don't have all the recipes online. So, but you could check. It's see now, make sure it's nchfp.uga.edu. That's the National Center for Home Food Preservation .uga University of Georgia .edu for education. So they do have some recipes and information on there. So
I will be checking.
okay. There's also the Ball Blue Book. The Ball Blue Book, the most current edition of it, does not, a lot of, or some of their recipes have not been tested. So that's why, you know, I hesitate to recommend that. Some of the older, like the 2013, 2009 edition, are okay to use, but not the latest one, which I think was 2017, I believe. So, but if you have questions or anything, you know, like, or need a recipe, you can call, you know, one of the extension offices, and we'll be glad to provide it for you. So,
Lovely.
okay, so I have filled these up to an inch from the, about an inch from the top. Some of them might go a little bit more, but I'm going to run the bubble wand down the side and remove any of the bubbles. I'm also going to be pressing down on the carrots some so that, you know, as I'm removing bubbles, maybe once the carrots will also fill the spot. So the head space, I think I mentioned, is measured from the top of the jar down. Kathy and I both work at the Mountain State Fair in the preserved food section. And a lot of times we get products in there that, I mean, it looks like that they are measured from the rim of the jar down. And that's just too much head space. It could create an unsafe product, but it could also turn the vegetables or fruit dark at the top. All your vegetables are an inch head space. Fruits are half an inch, and your jams and jellies or soft spreads and your pickles are 1/4 of an inch. If you have too much in there, you can always remove it. A lot of people, you know, you don't hear a lot of people canning carrots, but, you know, they are so handy in having to, you know, just fix as a side dish. Maybe, you know, you want to do some candied carrots, or making a big pot of soup or stew, or maybe a pot pie or something like that. So these will be already ready to eat, already to cook. So you're ready to go. After that,
once you open the jar,
yes.
How long should you store it in the fridge? Just a few days?
Yes, this would be just like, you know, cooking some carrots for a meal. You don't want them to stay too long in the refrigerator. So probably about, I'd say about 3 days maybe, and before you use them. So, good question. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put the lid and the ring on. Putting the ring on, you just want to make sure that it is hand tight, not really wrenched on. This one has been giving me problems in trying to get it on sometimes. All right, okay, there we go. So you just want it just hand tight. You don't want it wrenched on really tightly, because remember those bubbles that maybe we didn't get out of the center of the jar? In the processing, they are going to start working themselves out. So if you have the ring on too tight, it could cause your jar to break, because those bubbles will come out. Also, the carrots will shrink some in cooking them. Some of them, the juice may come out. The carrots that we did on Monday, when we took the jars out of the canner, the remaining water had an orange tint to it. So those rings are just hand tight. And I'm going to go ahead and set them in the canner. I think this canner will probably hold about 8 to 9 pints. And I have 7 there. So in cooking, a lot of times, the jars will start, if you get it too high, it might start banging against each other, and you don't want them to tilt over. So I just put a canning jar filled with water in the center there, no lid or ring on it. And I'm going to put the lid on. There's a front and the back to this. So, and I'm going to twist it. Okay. So you want the lids to line up. So I have turned it down a little bit, so I'm going to turn the heat back up and bring it back to a boil. And you can hear it when it starts boiling on the inside. It's like it's a rumbling and all. So we'll boil it, bring it back to a boil. We'll vent it, and then I'll put the weight on it. And then we'll bring the pressure up. And with carrots, with the weighted gauge, it's going to be 15 pounds of weight for 25 minutes for pints of carrots. So salt, you can add salt or not. Salt is just, it's not a preservative. It's just for flavor. So I don't put salt in mine. I like to wait and, when I open it and salt it later on. So
depending on how you use it.
Right. At one point, I think a lot of people thought that salt was a preservative. I remember my mother would can tomatoes, and she would put salt and sugar in the tomatoes. And I don't put salt in any of mine. I just want to wait and season it how I want to. So you have to be careful when you start adding different vegetables or foods to whatever you're canning, because what if they are all the same pH value, that's okay, because it has the same canning or the processing time. But if you were to take, say, green beans and corn, those are two different vegetables that have a big span between the pH. Beans are only processed for 20 minutes at 15 pounds of pressure or 12 pounds of pressure. Corn is actually processed in pints for 80 minutes, 80 to 90 minutes. So if you were to put beans and corn together, your beans would be mush by the time you process the corn.
Right.
So if you're making a soup mixture, I always like just to leave the corn and freeze it maybe, and just put all my other vegetables in the soup mixture, can that, and then add the corn when I open the soup mixture up to enjoy it at that point. So, any other questions?
How much water is in the bottom of the pot there?
Okay, so we started out by putting 1 to 2 inches of water in the bottom.
1 inch?
1 to 2 inches. Because we want steam, we don't want water. In a hot water bath, you actually put 1 to 2 inches of water over the tops of the jars. In a pressure canner, we're going to build up steam. So we've got 1 to 2 inches of water. I think I put 2 inches. I measured it by my knuckle, so up to the second knuckle, with water. Bring it to a boil. Have your rack in there, and then when this is going to start boiling and everything, that is, we're driving the air out, but we're also creating the steam on the inside. And steam is a higher temperature than water. So that's why this is called a pressure canner. Some people call it a steam canner. So either way, whichever you choose, but we're actually making, creating steam in there.
Steam.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's all very clear so far.
That's good. I was hoping it wouldn't be as clear as mud. So you can, it's recommended that you only can in one season what you're going to use within the next year. But that doesn't mean that May 27th, that's today, a year from now, if there's any of these carrots left, that we're going to open them and dump them. That just means the quality of the vegetable, it's going to start diminishing over a period of time. But if you're going to use these carrots like in soup or stew and everything, those nutrients that have leached out of those carrots into the liquid, you're going to put that into a soup and, you're going to get those nutrients. The heat does affect the nutrients some. And again, it's your preference as to whether you can or freeze things. A lot of people, I have one of the participants in the class on Monday who said, I am so tired of losing power and losing all my food that I want to learn how to can. So that is, why she came to the class so that she could learn how to use the pressure canner and use it safely. So, a lot of people do. Now, there's people who may not have a place to store their canned foods, and have more room in the freezer, or they like the taste of the frozen food better than they do the canned food. So, I have a chest freezer that is full, and I have a can room or canning shelves that are full also. My children love to come and shop at Mama's Can Room, so can store. So, and a coworker said that if the apocalypse ever came, he knew where he was going. He was coming to my house.
So what's your address?
Well, I'm teaching you how to do it so that you can store up for the apocalypse.
This is why we're talking.
Yes, these are starting to rumble a little bit. So we'll watch to make sure that this pops up. There's a little steam coming out of the vent here. I don't know if you can see it on the camera or not.
Not yet. So what temperature do you have it turned up on? High?
It is on high. You want to bring it up to pressure as quickly as you can. So it's on high, and we'll adjust it to maintain the pressure once we get pressure built in it.
Right.
So once these, the processing time is up, we're going to let them sit. I'll turn the burner off and let them sit and cool on their own. So the building up of the pressure, the maintaining, and the cooling off are all part of the processing. You don't want to, rush the temperature down or the pressure or anything. You want it to do it on its own, because all of that is very important. Once the pressure is down, I'll use the jar lifter, and I like to use like a bread pan, excuse me, and a dish towel to put in there to set the jars out of the pressure canner. onto that and to move them to where I'm going to let them cool. And I've got a spot ready over in the corner. It's got just a dishcloth on it that I will set them over there on. You want to place them in a spot where it's there's not a draft going by, or air conditioning vent is not nearby, or a fan blowing directly on them, because that could break the jars. So once we set them over there, we're going to leave them. We're going to just let them set for 12 to 24 hours. A lot of times when the jars come out of the pressure canner or even the hot water bath, they will start immediately pinging. You can hear that sealing, that vacuum seal being made. So you want just to leave them, and after 12 to 24 hours, you're going to check them to make sure that they're all sealed. After they're sealed, you can remove that ring, because remember I told you the ring only serves the purpose to hold that lid in place. So a lot of people said, but I like to store mine with the ring on it. There's a safety factor with that. If you store the jars with the ring on, and the lid were to come unsealed, bacteria can get in, and then if that ring is still there, it can reseal and create, spoil the entire jar. So if we store it without the ring, and some bacteria were to, have been in there, I don't see how, but sometimes it does. Or if the ring or if the lid come unsealed and bacteria got in, it's not going to reseal itself. So just
take the ring off.
I'm sorry.
So take the ring off.
Take the ring off, wash it, rinse it dry, and get ready to use it for the next batch. Carrots have sugar in them. So I said, in the processing, some of the water that the carrots that we poured on the carrots, that may have some of the sugar in it and get on the lid, and that could cause your lid to stick. Remember that lid that I showed you that had the dent in it? So I bet that somebody would have just stored it with the lid ring on and was trying to get that off. So store them. Whoop, there it went. So we are going to put the weight on, and we are going to start timing for 25 minutes. And Betsy is timing using her phone. And no, I'm sorry, Betsy, take that back. Once it starts rocking and rolling, that's when I'm going to start the processing time. I'm sorry about that.
All right, so the steam has started to come out, and so you put the weight on, or was it
has been in for 10 minutes, because this the vent back here at the back has come up. So we're going to start building the pressure up on the inside with that steam. And once that pressure starts building, it's going to cause our weight to start rocking. And once it starts rocking at, that constant rocking, that's when you start the processing time. I got a little bit fast.
Okay, that's fine. I understand.
Okay. Storing them after you take the rings off, you might want to label them, or at least put the date on the carrots. You can tell what carrots are. But especially like with jams and jellies, you can't always tell, the difference between blackberry, grape, blueberry, black raspberry, anything else. So those you want to label as to what they are. You could go ahead and, label it as the contents and the date, but the date is very important. You want to use the,
right.
The oldest first. So.
Right.
So you can store them if you have a cool, dry place to put them, If you have a pantry where, you've got room to store them, even putting them back in the can box, the boxes that you got your cans in, and just slide them under your bed, in the back of the closet, just somewhere where it's going to kind of maintain about a 70-degree temperature. You don't want them too cold or you don't want them too hot. So just somewhere good and safe. So trying to remember.
Don't put them in the attic.
No, I would not put them in the attic or next to a stove
Heater.
or a refrigerator or out on the carport if you've got a storage place out there or something like that. Just a good cool place. If you have a basement, that's a good place. Find a corner and just place them down there. So.
But you couldn't put them in the garage where it gets too cold.
No, you don't want it too cold, unless, well, yeah, you don't want it too cold in there. So you want to maintain about 60 to 70 degrees.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions?
So you put the weight on and once the steam was coming out, and how do we tell that it's going to be ready to start the time?
Okay, when this starts rocking, okay.
Rocking?
It's getting close, so you can hang, stick around. It's going to be a constant rock. You don't want it to be too fast, but you don't want it to be too slow either. Just a good consistent rock. And that means that, the pressure is going up through that stem, causing this weight to rock. After a while, you'll get to the point where, you can hear it and know that you need to turn your burner down some, or, if it's not doing anything, you need to adjust it. And that's another thing. You want to make sure that it is a consistent rock. You don't want to turn your burner down too low and cause it to, where there's to be no rocking, like it is now. And you don't want it to be too fast. But, if in the processing time, it, reverting back to this, you turn the heat down too much, you need to start the processing time all over again. So if you had your back turned and you thought, oh, I need to check it, or, something happened, if it is sitting like this, then we would have to start the processing time over at 0. Even if, we're in the middle of the processing time, you need to start it all over again, because you need to maintain that 240-degree temperature on the inside the entire time. If it has quit, rocking, you may not know how long it has not been rocking. So that means that it's been at a lower temperature. So, treat them safely. Like I said, don't go off and leave it. Once you get it to this point, or even when it starts rocking, don't go out and, mow the yard or,
distracted.
Right.
Don't get distracted.
Don't get distracted. Stay right with it. You can have your back turned doing things, in the kitchen, maybe getting your jars ready for the next batch, or cutting your carrots for the next batch of carrots that you're going to do or something. But, just don't go off and leave it, kind of stay close.
Right.
Okay, so it's beginning to rock some.
Oh, yeah, I see that.
Okay, Betsy, you want to start timing it? And I'm going to start turning the heat down on the burner, just so that it maintains that speed there. And again, once the time is up, when the processing is over, I'll turn the heat off and just let it set and cool on its own and not bother it.
Right.
You don't want to move it around.
Yeah.
Because that could, cause some more of the steam to escape and everything. Excuse me. Okay, stove. We'll talk a little bit about stove. So, do you have a smooth top stove?
Yes.
Okay. With a smooth top stove, you want to, number one, check your manufacturer's book for it to see if they say it's okay to can on the smooth top stove. Some of the older models, it was not recommended because you've got the canner, which these are pretty heavy. You've got the water in there and the jars of food. So, it gets heavy. So you think about the weight of the canner on ceramic. So that could cause it to, break. Some of your smooth top
Yeah,
stuff.
it's a pretty new.
Okay. Check and make sure that it doesn't cycle on and off, to maintain the heat. You want to maintain that heat and control it by your control. Some of the newer ones, I believe cycle. So you have to be careful with that. Some people think it's a great idea to use the turkey fryer and move outdoors, maybe on the carport or in your basement or something like that. Just don't get one that it's not safe to use one above 1600 BTU or at 1600 BTU. That at that heat, it could warp the canner, and you don't want that. So, and some of the coal stoves are hard to find. They're just not, being manufactured as much as they need to.
Right. Yeah, I wish I had gas.
Mm-hmm. With gas, that's a good way to regulate, the heat. Once you turn it off, it's off. So
Right.
I don't know if they do the cast iron stoves that have the cast iron burners. Those would be very hard, and that one you would need to move it off of there because with it being cast iron, it would hold that heat in there and continue the cooking process.
Right.
So it's rocking and rolling pretty well. And we're going to try to maintain that.
So once the time is up, and you put a timer on for 25 minutes?
Yes, Betsy started her timer on her phone for me.
So once that is done, you turn off the heat, and then how long do you wait before you can open it to take the jars out?
You wait till all of the pressure has gone down. So this will quit, the weight will quit the rocking.
Right.
This vent will go down. And we're going to wait about 5 to 10 minutes afterwards. And we're going to slowly raise that weight. If we hear any hissing or anything, now, excuse me, that means that there's still pressure in there. So
right.
We won't put it back down and just let it go down on its own. Keep checking just to make sure that there's no pressure. Once there's no steam build up on the inside, you can remove your jars and put them in a cool place to dry. As I said, when I take those jars out of there, I'm going to raise them up and over and set them down in my pan with the towel.
Using right angles.
Right, just almost like a robotic. So
yeah.
We don't want to tilt it With the carrots, it wouldn't be too bad, but if you were doing tomatoes and some of the tomato juice or pulp got under that lid, it could keep it from sealing. It takes, for it to cool down, the whole processing, whatever the processing time, like 25 minutes, it's probably going to take another 25 to 35 minutes for it to cool down. It's going to take that processing time plus maybe a little bit for it to cool down and be ready to come out of the can.
Does it matter that it's longer than that?
You don't want to leave it too long because thermophils can start building up in the food. So you want to get it out as quickly after the pressure has gone down as you can. So, you don't want to leave it overnight and take it out the next morning.
Right, okay.
That could create some, unsafe food. Even if you finish at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, just set up another 30 to 35 minutes to take it out just to make sure that it's safe. If you were to have an emergency come up, say, you got a phone call in the middle of this, what you would need to do is turn the heat off, go take care of the emergency, and then come back, take the jars out. If you don't have time at that point, take the lids and the rings off, set them in the refrigerator. The next day, put new lids, you can use the same rings, put those on and start the processing time all over.
Right.
If you have a jar that is sealed, you can do one of 3 things. You can go ahead and eat it. You enjoy it right then. You can put it in the refrigerator and save it, for later on. So those were the first 2. You can freeze it, drain the water off, and put it in one of the hand freeze jars without the shoulder, without any of the water in it. Put a lid on it and put it in the freezer. Or you can reprocess it. So put a new lid on, use the same ring, and put it in the canner and process it for the same amount of time. Again, that's going to make a less desirable product. It's going to be, softer and everything than, the normal doing it the first way here. Nancy, can you think of any other questions?
One thing we discussed on Monday was Instapot.
Yes, Instapot. So there is a setting on the Instapot that has canning on it, and that is not recommended. There is not enough research done on those, and that research again comes from the University of Georgia, the National Center for Home Food Safety Action. And that brings up another question or another thing that has not had a lot of research. And those are the Tatler lids, T-A-T-T-L-E-R. Those just have not had enough research done on them to really deem them safe or not. And those were the lids that supposedly you're able to use over and over again. So for right now, don't use that because it's not enough research has been done on it yet.
That mentioned about Mary Josie.
Mayonnaise, Charlotte, and of course I didn't bring those with me today. So if you, you mentioned, putting these in the refrigerator. So we're going to store them without the ring. So if you were to open a can of carrots and took out a cup of them to heat up and use, but you still have another cup left over, you store them in the refrigerator. Well, this lid might fall off, and it might turn over, turn brown, dry out, whatever. So if you've got the ring handy, go ahead and put it back on it, just to store it in the refrigerator.
Right.
There are storage caps that are produced, manufactured, that you can put on. I even save my mayonnaise jar lids and use those as a storage cap or a lid for like my jams and jellies and things. So, I just put, one of those on and you store it in the refrigerator, and that works really well. So if you wanted to buy some of the storage caps, those are available also. And what's our time yet? There's 12 minutes to go. Yeah. Okay, so we have 12 minutes to go.
Now, was there a book or a link to a document for this class?
You can check out our website, henderson.ces.mcsd.edu.
Okay.
So you can, find out, all the classes that are going on. If you want to look and see what Buncombe County is doing, just put Buncombe in there where Henderson is. Or
Okay.
any of the other counties.
Sure.
Okay. Do you have any other questions that you can think of right now?
There's certainly things like relishes and things like that. Are there certain recipes that might be a way that you could identify where those are?
The National
Georgia, right?
Home Food Preservation has some of the recipes on their website. Of course, in so is the dessert book has them. With relishes and pickles too, again, you have to be careful and when you start adding other foods because that changes the pH. A lady had attended one of my jams classes and she wanted to make some specialty strawberry mint jam. And so, we wanted to know if that was okay. So I was checking with our food safety specialist at NC State. And, I found out all kinds of things because, with especially mint, it's going to determine if it's fresh or if it's dry, if it's chopped, if it's cold, if it's added before cooking or after cooking. So there was just a whole long list of restrictions. So, you just have to be very careful. Even if you've got Aunt Martha's best recipe ever, it needs to be a tested recipe from a reliable source. Be careful on the internet and just Googling, a recipe that you want to do. So you're probably not, like I said, it's going to be about 30 minutes after I turn this on before I take it out of the pan or out of the pot. But, all you do is, once it gets down, take the weight off, make sure there's no steam build up there, unlock the lid, and tilt the lid away from you. You do not want a facial, steam facial. So put the lid where it's going to be safe and cool and start removing the jars. When you take them out of the canner, they may still be cooking and bubbling on the inside. So just be very careful. The other day, on Monday, as an example, I took a jar out and it had not completely processed. So it was not that hot, but it was a little bit hot. But the bottom of the jar broke out and I had a towel in my hand. And when I lifted the jar, carrots, water, and everything just poured over my hand. So I still have the jar in my hand, in my other hand. So you just have to be very careful. Sometimes you can look your jars over and make sure they're in the best of shape. And then sometimes they still break. A lot of times jars where you'll find a break is just right around the bottom. So when you lift it up, the bottom stays there and the top of the jar comes up. So just be very careful in taking them out of the can. That's why, I like to, put them in a bread pan with a towel on it, just so that, I don't have to, try to carry the whole thing over to where I'm cooling.
Right.
My husband, who is disabled, loves to get in there and help me. And this is one way that we have found where he can do it, by putting 2 or 3 jars in there and carrying them to the cooling surface. So the cooling surface, you can use, several towels folded, or you can have some newspaper, to make that pattern surface. But, just somewhere where it's going to be out of the way, where it's going to be kind of cool, and just let them, cool down on their own.
You turn your oven down at all?
Is the temperature down? Yes.
Did you
I'm down.
turn the stove top down?
Yes. This stove has high, medium, high, and I'm at the lower part of medium high. Just almost to medium. Okay. Yeah, if we left it up too high, it would be really jiggling, and that real fast jiggling would bring all the steam out. It could also, cause liquid to be lost out of that jar that is directly below the vent, which in our case is just a jar of water.
Oh, yeah, right.
So with the pressure cooker,
Water is,
took some roast in. That one you do force the temperature down or the pressure down on there, by running cool water over the top or laying towels around it or things like that. But with you don't want to do that with the pressure can. And the pressure cookers are not safe to use as a pressure canner either. So just keep in mind all these safety features. Whatever you prepare, you want to make sure that it's safe, to feed your family or share with your friends and things like that. So we want you to be safe.
so the PSI on this was 10 or 15?
15. Adjusting for altitude, yes.
So there must be a formula to identify whether you go to 12 or 15 or.
In the so easy to surface and even in the Bob Blue book, it has a chart.
Excellent.
There is the bell. So I turned it off and I'm just going to leave it setting. I'll probably work in here just so that I'm with it. And I got lots of other work to do.
So how long are you gonna wait? How long will you wait to?
It's probably going to take about 35 minutes.
Okay.
Once this stops rocking and this vent back here goes down, then, I'll know that it's getting close to time. So, and you can already tell a difference in the sound of it.